Hi everyone, my name is Leanne and today I'm bringing you the final episode in my Rainbow series. This is a series where it was basically an excuse for me to talk to you about a bunch of books that I don't always get to talk about on the channel. If you want to see the rest of the episodes in this series, I will leave it linked in the cards and in the description. And to finish off the series, we're not looking at the brightest colours, but we are looking at some classic colours. We are recommending black and white books, monochrome if you will. And to be fair, these books have a few different colours on a lot of their covers, but they are predominantly either white or black. We're going to be alternating between the two colours as we go, and I'm going to kick things off with Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. Now, I have spoken about this book a few times on the channel. It was one of my favourite fiction reads of last year, but it has been a little while since I spoke about it. This book is both an historical novel and a science fiction novel. It starts in the 1970s and we follow Dana, who is a writer. She's transported back to the 1800s, where she saves this little boy's life when he is drowning. She doesn't know how she's been transported to this place, but she sees a kid in danger and jumps into action. She doesn't know how she's ended up back here, but she is repeatedly drawn back to this boy, traveling back in time when he needs some sort of saving. And whenever she is transported back to the 1800s, she is assumed to be a slave. Gradually, over the course of the novel, she comes to realise that this little boy is actually one of her ancestors, and that is why she needs to keep saving him. It's a book that deals with a lot of complicated things around race, around slavery, and also around gender. It's absolutely incredibly written. All of the characters are crafted magnificently. As I said, it was one of my favourite fiction reads of last year. I put it off for quite a long time because I was kind of intimidated by the time travel sci-fi element, but this book lives up to all of the hype around it. It is incredible, and if you've not picked it up yet, I would highly encourage you to. Next, I want to recommend Girl by Kenya Hunt. This is a non-fiction book. This is the proof edition, but I think the final copy is like a similar kind of design. And this is a collection of essays predominantly from Kenya herself, but some other voices in the mix as well, that is all about experiences of Black womanhood. One of the aspects of these essays that I found particularly interesting was Kenya comparing her experiences of being a Black woman and experiencing racism in both America and in England, and how those experiences differed. It really explores the complexity and the nuances of her experiences, and Kenya's voice really shines through in her writing as well. It's a book that opened my eyes to a lot of things. It's a book that reasserted a lot of things that I had been told before and learned before. And I think if intersectional feminism is important to you, as it should be, then I would really recommend this essay collection. The Break by Marian Keyes. I have spoken about Marian Keyes a lot on the channel previously, but I did want to talk about this one again. This was the first Marian Keyes novel that I ever read. All of her books explore things around relationships and families. They can often delve into quite serious topics amongst the kind of lighthearted frivolity of some of the plot lines in her books. There are a lot of issues that are underpinning the things that she's talking about. This book is about Amy, whose husband Hugh decides that he essentially wants to take like a gap year from their relationship. He wants to go traveling and take a break from their marriage. Not only from their marriage, but from their kids as well. And it's about Amy navigating that period of her life, of her feeling like her marriage is over, but her marriage isn't over. They're just on a break, and it's very confusing. And it's about her finding her independence, but also figuring out what she is able to do with her new freedom. This freedom that she never really asked for. And the whole concept just really intrigued me. I thought it was a really funny and interesting lens to explore Amy's life, but ultimately what shines through in this book is the bonds that she has with women in her life, particularly the generational relationships, you know, how she feels about her relationship with her mother, the relationship that she has with her daughters. I didn't pick up a Marian Keyes book for a really long time because I had a lot of internalized misogyny that made me think that her kind of books weren't for me, and they absolutely are for me. And I feel so lucky that I now have a massive backlist of Marian Keyes books that I can now enjoy. Next, I want to recommend a poetry collection, and that is Let Them Eat Chaos by K. Tempest. This is a poetry book that is about 7 individuals in London. It is about exploring their feelings of isolation, of feeling disenfranchised, and explores this idea around, despite London being a place that is filled with so many people and so many things going on, it can in fact be a really lonely place to be. And there is also a lot of social criticism in this collection as well. K. Tempest has an incredible style of poetry that is very spoken word, very rhyme heavy, very rhythm heavy, and I would really recommend looking this up on Spotify because you can hear them read the entire thing, and that was just an incredible listening and reading experience for me. If you're looking to get into poetry as well and you don't really know where to start, I think Kay's poetry can really brilliantly build a bridge between music and poetry that is really going to help poetry be accessible for people. I'm about to recommend you a Christmas book, okay? But look, you might want to start thinking about what books you want to have on your radar leading up to Christmas. I don't know. This is One Day in December by Josie Silver. I wanted to talk about this book because it started a tradition for me. Every year around Christmas, normally when I'm traveling from the UK to Ireland, now obviously I didn't do that last Christmas, but it is something that I will be doing this Christmas, I will pick up a romance book for like the traveling to the airport flight, that whole journey. And it has become a tradition, a cozy, festive romance. And it was all started with this book. So this book starts with a girl who is on a bus, and through the frosted glass on the window, she spots someone outside. It is a very handsome boy. They lock eyes, and she is met with this feeling of like, wow, it feels like love at first sight. And she tells her best friend about this encounter, and it has become kind of like a running joke between them, like, busboy, when is she gonna meet busboy? And then one day, her best friend brings home her new boyfriend, and guess who it is? It's busboy! And she's like, well, I can't tell my best friend that her new boyfriend is busboy. He probably doesn't even remember it. But eventually, some stuff starts to go down, and it's a great time. If you're looking for a book that is just gonna keep you turning the pages, that is gonna be full of, like, the romantic filios. And also, to be fair, this book isn't actually entirely set at Christmas. Like, some of it is set at Christmas, but it's actually, like, over a long period of time. And just, it was a great time. I should probably reread this. The Tidal Zone by Sarah Moss. Love Sarah Moss. I love Ghostwall. I love Summerwater. This was the first Sarah Moss that I read. It's quite a literary book that is told from a father's perspective. There aren't often many books that I love that are told from male perspectives, but it follows the aftermath of what happens when this man's daughter's heart stops beating. She is resuscitated and she lives, but it is about the effect of that experience on him, how it completely alters his whole world. It's a book that has a lot to do with gender dynamics in parenting as well. I always say this book is one of my favourite books of all time, but it has been a long time since I actually read it. So maybe this is another one where I'm due a reread. Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. Feels like we've been transported back to 2017, where I feel like everyone read this book. Yeah, it's been a while since I even acknowledged that it existed. This book is about a woman named Eleanor who lives a very simple life. She has like the same routine day in, day out, even down to like what she wears every day. She doesn't really have any friends until one day she ends up accidentally in a friendship with a man, and through that friendship Eleanor gradually begins to open up to us somewhat. We know that she has huge issues with her mother. There's some sort of traumatic abusive history there that for a long time isn't very clear to us as a reader, but it gradually unfolds as we get more details about their history. Eleanor is a really unusual character. I don't think I've read any characters that are kind of similar to her in any way, and it's a book that is really about re-establishing emotional connections. Maybe you were someone who didn't read this when it first came out because of all the hype. I would definitely encourage you to give it a read. It was a really great reading experience for me. Gangster Up by Benjamin Zephaniah. Benjamin Zephaniah is probably most well known for being a poet, but he has written some books for kids as well. This book is about 4 teenage boys who find themselves getting into a lot of trouble because they aren't really interested in school. School just isn't really for them. There is nothing about the experience that kind of engages them until they are given an avenue to explore what they are really passionate about, and that is music. And as they begin to explore this passion for music and begin to refine their talent, they find a lot of success. But as their success grows, so too does the pressure that is put on these young shoulders. And we see how society has crafted this web for them to get stuck in. We see how racism and violence begins to impact their lives and careers. The explicit, overt racism, but also the very institutionalized, ingrained stuff. Absolutely incredible. I think there should be more books for kids out there that are like Benjamin Zephaniah's books, and he's an absolutely incredible writer. Boy Queen by George Lester is another absolutely amazing young adult novel. This book is about Robin, who is a gay teenager who doesn't really know what direction his life is headed in. Hasn't got into the drama school he wanted to get into. He doesn't really have any plans for what he's going to do after school. There's just so much uncertainty in his life, and this is beginning to lead him down a spiral. That is until he discovers drag. And we follow him throughout this book, opening his eyes to this incredible world of performance that he feels so accepted in. While it's a book that doesn't shy away from the difficulties that a lot of gay teenage boys face, it's not a sad or depressing queer book. It is a book that is full of pride. If you love Drag Race, if you loved books like Dean Atta's The Black Flamingo, then I think you would really like this book as well. And the final book I would like to recommend to you is Noughts and Crosses by Mallory Blackman. This was a series that I slept on for the longest time. I don't know if maybe it wasn't as big of a deal in Ireland as it was in the UK, but this kind of completely passed me by when I was a teenager. It's a young adult book series that essentially flips the roles of racism around. So society is divided into two groups, noughts and crosses, and the people with the structural power in this society are black people. And the first book is about the romance between Callum and Seffi. Callum is a very working class white boy, and Seffi is a black girl that has a lot of structural power, not only because of her race, but because of who her family are. And it's about the forbidden romance between these two kids. The series goes on to explore so many different complexities of racism, and by reversing the roles, it lends a really fascinating perspective to thinking about race. I've read 2 books in the series now, but I'm so looking forward to reading the other books. This book, as well as the second book that I have read, I gave 5 stars to both of them. I thought they were just incredible. Some of the best young adult writing I have ever read. If you've not picked up this series yet, please do. I so urge you to. So there we have it. There was recommending 5 books with white covers and 5 books with black covers. Do let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. I'm sorry that this series is coming to an end. I would love to do more episodes where I go back round the colours, but I'm not gonna have these shelves for very much longer, and I'm only gonna have my unread books with me. If you have any thoughts on anything that I have mentioned in this video, do leave me a comment down below. Or if you don't have anything specific to say, just leave me an emoji so I know that you're here. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for watching this series. I hope you guys are doing well, and I will speak to you in my next video.